Locomotives are the backbone of every railroad. Without locomotives, you just have a bunch of cars sitting around. Now, there's a lot of locomotives out there. Train World currently stocks over 4,000 different locomotives in HO scale. That's pretty intimidating, especially to a new modeler. So, what are some locomotives you should be on the lookout for? Well, there's actually quite a few. So, I've narrowed down a list to 7 locomotives that I think every new modeler should be on the lookout for. First things first, I will be including used locomotives on this list. They actually make up the almost entire list. There are so many great locomotives that are no longer in production that are still quite easy to find. They also have to be found for under $100 consistently. So I've been gauging at train shows and on eBay to see how much these locomotives go for. And the last thing is they have to be in good running order. No junkers. Those are my 3 rules, so let's get to it. Number 7, and this is going to be a controversial one, old Bachman Diesel locomotives. Now I know what everyone is saying. Isn't this list supposed to be about good locomotives? And you'd be absolutely correct. These are not good locomotives by any metric. So why did I include these? Well, I think these are locomotives that absolutely everybody should experience at some point because they're the definition of junk from the factory. They're not the worst looking locomotives in history, if I'm being honest, and if anyone is looking for a project they can complete in a single afternoon, you could try fitting one to an Athearn chassis or replacing the gears on one. There are so many different locomotives of this slot, so the cheapest ones here are the GP40, the F7, and F9. These can be found for less than $20 online, and I've seen them go for as low as $5 to $7 at train shows in running order. The GP30, GP50, F40PH, the General Electric U33, and U36 are slightly more expensive in the $25 to $40 price range online, and the elusive GE BQ23-7 is the oddball of the lot and will command an insanely high price online. All of these are great project material, so if you're looking for a locomotive to do a first project on, I don't think there's any better choice. Number 6. Walther's Trainline GP15-1. This is the only brand new locomotive on the list, and I've seen quite a few myself, and they seem to have a very similar chassis to my Walther's mainline GP9. To my knowledge, this is based upon a Proto 1000 tooling, so you're already getting a really nice shell on top of that rock-solid chassis. The locomotives included in Walther's current train set lineup and reviews are all incredibly positive, and you can find these locomotives brand new for somewhere in the $70 to $80 range, although I've seen them go for as low as $65. Number 5, Mahano or IHC 462 or 282 locomotives. These are the definitive mid-size beginner-level steam locomotives. They are exceptionally easy to find, and you can even find new old stock of some of these for around $40 to $50. That's not even to start with the absolutely insane amount of variants of these. The 462 came in both a regular USRA light and as a semi-streamlined locomotive, and then there's at least 25 different colors to choose from. Later versions also came with DCC, and some even had sound from the factory. The last version of the 282 came out around 2008, and the mechanism was so good that it could crawl at half a scale mile per hour. Number 4, Bachman Spectrum 280. This one might be a harder one to find at the sub $100 mark and is definitely at the higher end of our spectrum, but you can find these for under $100. eBay usually shows them between $100 to $150, but at shows, on average, I'd say they're around the $80 to $90 mark in good condition. Introduced in 1998, they're still made to this day, and for good reason. The reliable belt drive mechanism, the great detail, and the ability to be a reasonable stand-in for most railroads. The locomotive comes DCC ready even in its earliest iterations, so DCC compatibility is never a problem. They pull well, look great, and has and will continue to remain a staple of the HO scale world for many years to come. Number 3, any Proto 2000 diesel locomotive. I love Proto 2000, and everyone who knows me knows how much I love them. I've made a whole video about Proto stuff already, so basically you can fill this slot with just about any Proto 2000 diesel locomotive of your choice. It's rare that a Proto diesel locomotive fetches a price anywhere above $75 if used, and new in box examples are still far less than $100. The drive mechanism is the only real fault of these locomotives, but those can be repaired in a matter of minutes, and there's a ton of variety here, and the road-specific details for each unit makes them a great choice for both newbies and experienced modelers alike. Number 2, Stuart Hobbies diesel locomotives. Stuart Hobbies is a very small manufacturer based out of Pennsylvania. You may have never heard of them, and I don't blame you. They offer a very small selection of locomotives, but they're all praised for being silky, smooth runners with great looking body shells. They can also be commonly found unpainted, allowing for you to put your own spin on the unit, like this blue one owned by a friend right here. These locomotives can be had for anywhere between $35 and $100 depending on the unit and livery, and come highly recommended by anyone who has ever owned one. My number one choice probably will come as a surprise to some of you. It is the Bachman US06, the staple of all train sets since the mid-80s, and you knew it was going to end up here. Hated by many, loved by many as well, this is one controversial locomotive. It's lasted so long because there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's intended to be that perfect locomotive for beginners, and that's absolutely what it is. You can get a more modern one that runs for about $50 in nice condition, and there's several different tender types and a basically infinite amount of road names offered to suit any railroad. The chassis is rugged and reliable, and it still has that very primitive smoke unit if you're into that sort of thing. The locomotive has been custom material since it debuted in the late 70s, and there's a ton of impressive works of art that use this very train set locomotive as a base. If you never owned a steam locomotive before, these are the de facto best first steam locomotive you can pick. This is by no means a good definitive list of starter locomotives, but it's a list on the sort of locomotives you should be looking out for. A lot of people really love to recommend old Atherton Blue Box and Ready to Roll locomotives, as well as old Atlas diesels. I didn't include them since we'd be looking at entire massive product lines for this entire video. Prices fluctuate wildly depending on your area, the road name being offered, and sometimes a later or earlier generation of the locomotive can be worth more. The IHC 282 is consistently worth more if it's a newer variant. All of these locomotives I have seen consistently below $100, so I wouldn't trust eBay and would pay for entry to a train show. They are also consistently very easy to find at shows. They're also all great project material, so if you're interested in doing repairs or customizing your locomotives, all of these are good places to start and prove that good locomotives aren't just for experienced hobbyists.